What myth did a company invent to sell their products? The inventors of OxyContin tried to convince the public that it was a addictive free version of oxycodone. They blatantly lied and were sued for like $500 mil a while back. They were basically the same ads as the ads for H back in the late 1800s. H was marketed as the safer, non-addictive replacements for morphine. It's probably an urban legend, as I can't find a source for it online, but I remember reading about a company that sold canned tuna advertising its product as being guaranteed not to turn black in the can. Of course, tuna would never turn black in the can, but by saying it won't, it implied that competing brands did sell tuna that turned black in the can. I heard it has won't turn pink in the can, as at the time dyeing the tuna to be pink was what was done and they decided it would be cheaper not to dye it. Still no idea if that is legit or not. Ivory soap. So pure it floats. They whip air into the mixture. It has nothing to do with purity. So cheap it floats. Alka-Seltzer increased sales by changing the recommended dose to 2 tablets instead of 1. The famous plop, fizz marketing campaign was only to increase sales, not based on real medical advice. I'd stop going to the doctor who advises a plop fizz. A counterexample, Wonder Bread was widely mocked for their slogan "Build strong bodies 12 ways," since it was just white bread with some added artificial vitamins. As natural foods became more popular, that was regarded as an advertising myth. However, during the Depression, Wonder Bread prevented pellagra and other vitamin deficiencies among alcoholics who had poor diets, but did eat white bread, and saved tens of thousands of lives in the process. Nutella told people their products were a healthy alternative. That beer will spoil if it goes from cold to hot. Coors started this because they had refrigerated trucks and pushed that always cold thing. In reality, most beer is going from cold to hot multiple times while being shipped out. The real enemy of beer is light and time. Skechers shape-ups made your butt more toned and bigger. I bought the Reebok shoes that claimed to do this. A year or so later I got a check in the mail for I think around $30. Apparently they lost a class action lawsuit that the shoes didn't do what they claimed. Mentioning JD Power Awards in an ad means something to you as a consumer. JD Power and Associates rated best car in initial quality. That literally means that the car seems nice at first. I hear soda companies switched from glass to plastic as a cost-saving measure, claiming they were more convenient as you can just throw them away rather than bringing the bottles back for cleaning and refilling. They then blamed consumers for all the additional plastic trash. I remember many years ago Coca-Cola actually came in reusable plastic bottles. The plastic was much thicker and the whole thing was very sturdy. Diamonds are forever. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. 2 months salary. My grandpa used to tell me the story of how he was friends with a guy who created the beverage Talking Rain. The sparkling water became very popular in the 90s and came in a bottle with the story of how the native people of the area found a bubbling spring that seemed to talk as rain fell into it or something. This magical water became the source for Talking Rain. But that was all of course just a lie the guy made up to sell carbonated tap water to idiots. Talking Rain. Some stay dry and others feel the pain. Putting some holes in a cardboard box for a pet rock to breathe was one of the most inspired advertising ploys ever. Freaking brilliant. That my sea monkeys were going to be my new friends. The Disney Vault. I remember during the pre-streaming days of how big a deal Disney made about pulling stuff out of their vault for the last time, making a VHS of Dumbo available for a single Christmas season at $29.99. Even then, people had to know that Disney would sell it as long as people bought it. The slogan "More doctors smoke Camels," implying that Camel cigarettes were some sort of healthy cigarette recommended by doctors. I have an old cigarette tin that advertises, especially designed for sore throats. Clover used to be an intentional part of the American lawn prior to World War II. It thrives in poor soil, fixes its own nitrogen and can survive drought conditions, and was deliberately added to assist with the growth of the surrounding grass. Once weed killer came to market post-World War II, it wasn't long before chemical companies successfully rebranded clover as a weed. Clover is a broadleaf plant and was unintentionally killed alongside the other unfavorable weeds, so it was successfully removed from the picturesque perfect American lawn by chemical companies. Kerrygold butter originally was just a standard butter that happened to be made in Ireland. They released a marketing campaign about how you shouldn't cook with Kerrygold because it was a fancier high quality butter. It ended up working and international sales skyrocketed. So they used the money to actually improve their product so that it would be as it is today, a fancier high quality butter. This isn't so much a myth to sell products but to divert blame. Anti-littering campaigns were started by large corporations that polluted heavily in order to shift blame away from them to the individual for keeping the planet clean. Don't get me wrong, people who litter are scumbags, but no one human could produce as much pollution as a factory, let alone an entire industry. Same thing goes for water conservation. A single family uses fractions of a percent of water compared to what industry uses. When you see blame for something shift to individuals, take a moment and look at the broader picture of who the major perpetrators are. Areas to look at: drugs, pharmaceutical industry, water usage, pollution, greenhouse gases, waste in general. All are things we as individuals do contribute to in some way, but that is so small compared to what is actually happening and what companies are doing. All cosmetics company claiming male and female need a different soap, shampoo, razor. Lately some even tried to apply the gendered marketing to yogurt, toothpaste, handkerchief or pens. Rinse and repeat on shampoo bottles was designed to sell more shampoo. I did some research on why KFC is the food to eat for Christmas in Japan and found this. According to brand legend, there were some American tourists in Japan during the Christmas holidays back in the 70s. When they couldn't find roast turkey for their holiday meal, they got the next best thing: a bucket of KFC fried chicken. A manager at the local store saw it, told some higher ups, and eventually the marketing team started advertising it as a Christmas tradition, to the point that it actually became such a popular tradition you now have to reserve your chicken weeks in advance. Japanese KFC is pretty friggin' good, and my bucket even came with a commemorative Christmas plate. Dockers invented business casual to sell more khaki slacks and help get men out of wearing suits to work as much. Thank God for that. That vitamin water is healthy. I actually tasted vitamin water a year before it was released. It tasted very different, way less sweet. No one actually liked it. So, I don't know if anybody knows this. Big tobacco companies have their hand in more than just cigs causing cancer. The reason horrible cancer-causing flame retardants existed in almost all foam inside furniture for decades was because of these companies. In the 1970s, the government was trying to force big tobacco to make the self-extinguishing cigarette, because it was the main cause of household fires at the time. People falling asleep with a cig in their hand. You get the picture. Well, big tobacco made a bunch of crappily conducted research, as well as spread propaganda for years that it wasn't the cig, which they didn't want to change at all, but that furniture is poorly insulated and catches fire easily. So, skip to about 1990, and people start realizing all these carcinogens are in breast milk, and huge ppm counts of bad crap in humans, caused mainly by people living with this degrading flame retardant coated foam. Firefighters' cancer rates also skyrocketed because of this. Smoke death due to the fire retardant burning also spiked. It took something like 10 years or so for a crap load of lawyers and legislators to finally get the law changed in California, the last state requiring flame retardant coated foam. And even then it's still being battled because the chemical companies that sold the flame retardant make so much money off it. My dad was a building code inspector. When I would talk to him about his smoking 3 goddamn packs a day, he'd quip that there was more arsenic and carcinogens in the furniture and carpets than he smoked a day. Water memory to sell homeopathy products. The colorful flowers in your yard are actually terrible weeds. Spray toxic chemicals on your property weekly. But I like dandelions. Plus you can eat them. Women love the smell of an entire can of Axe body spray, which was believed by every teenage boy for years. They also used to give those trial-sized cans out by the fricking case in middle and high school. Our entire locker room always reeked of that crap because we would take full cans of it and slap them with our track spikes and they'd shoot off across the locker room like a rocket. They also made amazing flamethrowers. Our locker rooms were like Baghdad back in the day. Literally any company that claims detoxifying properties. What toxins? Your kidneys do that for you anyway. Food companies. Practically anything. Fat is not as bad as we thought. Sugar is worse than we thought. Guess who helped make that misunderstanding? How about recent articles that came out suggesting coconut oil is bad for you? Same deal. Look at who writes these papers. I always find a conflict of interest somewhere down the line. Spinach is not especially high in iron. The story goes that way back in 1870 a researcher made a mistake with a decimal point and accidentally credited spinach with 10 times the iron content it actually had. The mistake was corrected relatively quickly, but to this day spinach producers still like to push their product based on its iron content, despite the fact that if you compare the actual numbers, spinach is middle of the road among leafy greens on iron. Low fat products, which we were told was good for you because fat is bad. Turned out it was BS because the low fat products had more sugar in it to compensate for taste. More sugar carbs is the real cause of many diseases we have. The smoking industry used to claim it was healthy. Electrolytes are what plants crave. Brawndo, it's got electrolytes. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, just about any Hallmark holiday. Mother's Day was actually created as an anti-war holiday and then, like everything else, ended up commercialized. 3 film students vanish after traveling into a Maryland forest to film a documentary on the local Blair Witch legend, leaving only their footage behind. I don't think you can adequately explain to someone who grew up with the internet how terrifying it was to not know whether the Blair Witch Project was real or not. It was before all the found footage movies took off and everyone was pretty sure it wasn't real, but not sure enough to not be a little terrified. I believe it was Lysol that created the myth that vags aren't self-cleaning and you need to douche them out. Otherwise your husband will leave you or whatever. Seriously, look up some of the old ads. It's absolutely bananas the type of stuff they were claiming. Not only unnecessary, but extremely detrimental health-wise. And a lot of people still believe that crap. That oranges are loaded with vitamin C. There's more vitamin C in a bell pepper than in an orange. 2. I just read about this in a book a couple months ago. The man who invented toothpaste deliberately put in mint and other flavors along with a chemical that causes your gums to tingle so that when you wake up in the morning you crave the mint and the tingling feeling on your gums. That is why your mouth feels atrocious if you do not brush every morning. Not a myth per se, but they sold a product that perpetuated itself forward as people used it more and more. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.